In a world increasingly defined by shifting alliances, regional rivalries, and the erosion of traditional power structures, a new development has emerged that could reshape the strategic landscape of the Muslim world. Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, two of the most influential Islamic nations, have signed a strategic mutual defense agreement. The pact, signed in Riyadh by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif, pledges that an attack on one will be treated as an attack on both. To understand the significance of this pact, we must first examine the historical relationship between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. Since the 1960s, Pakistan has played a quiet but crucial role in Saudi defense. Pakistani troops have trained Saudi forces, guarded royal assets, and provided strategic advice. Over 10,000 Saudi personnel have received training from Pakistan. During regional conflicts, Pakistani units have been stationed in the kingdom to bolster its security. Saudi Arabia, in turn, has supported Pakistan financially, diplomatically, and politically, especially during times of economic crisis or international isolation. But while this cooperation has always existed, it was informal, unspoken, and often dependent on personal relationships between leaders. The new pact changes that. It formalizes the alliance. It turns cooperation into obligation. It creates a framework for joint military exercises, intelligence sharing, technology transfer, and mutual deterrence. And while the agreement doesn't explicitly mention Pakistan's nuclear arsenal, its strategic ambiguity sends a clear message. The Islamic world is building its own deterrent framework. The timing of the pact is no coincidence. It was signed just days after an Israeli missile strike in Doha killed senior Hamas leaders. Qatar, despite hosting one of the largest U.S. military bases in the region, was vulnerable. Gulf states saw Washington's silence as complicity. The incident exposed a growing security dilemma. Reliance on Western protection no longer feels sufficient. This realization has triggered a strategic recalibration. Muslim nations are asking, if the West won't defend us, should we defend each other? But before we explore that possibility, we must confront a hard truth. For decades, Western powers, especially the United States, Britain, and France have propped up authoritarian regimes across the Arab world. These regimes, often labeled moderate or stable, have suppressed dissent, jailed opposition, and maintained a status quo favorable to Western interests. In return, they've received military aid, diplomatic cover, and economic deals. Egypt, under Hosni Mubarak, Tunisia, under Ben Ali, Libya, under Gaddafi until he outlived his usefulness. Saudi Arabia, despite its human rights record, remains a top buyer of Western arms. The West didn't care about democracy or human rights. It cared about control. It cared about oil. It cared about suppressing political Islam. When the Arab Spring erupted in 2011, millions of people across the region demanded freedom, dignity, and justice. But Western governments hesitated. They feared the rise of Islamist parties. They feared losing their puppet governments. Instead of supporting democratic movements, they backed the regimes. In Egypt, the elected government of Mohammed Morsi was overthrown in a military coup. The West remained silent. In Bahrain, peaceful protests were crushed with Saudi tanks. The West looked the other way. The message was clear. Stability mattered more than sovereignty. This betrayal has fueled resentment. It's why the Saudi-Pakistan Pact is more than a defense agreement. It's a declaration of independence from Western manipulation. It's a signal that the Islamic world is ready to chart its own course. So, could this pact evolve into an Islamic NATO? Let's break it down. A true military alliance would require a unified command structure, shared defense doctrine, joint military exercises, coordinated intelligence and cyber defense, and political cohesion among member states. The benefits would be significant. Collective security, regional deterrence, and reduced dependence on Western arms. It could reshape the strategic landscape of the Middle East, South Asia, and North Africa. It could protect vulnerable populations, stabilize conflict zones, and assert greater control over regional affairs. Economically, defense collaboration could lead to indigenous arms production, joint R&D, and reduced reliance on Western technology. Politically, it could strengthen the voice of the Islamic world in global forums, from the UN to the G20. But the challenges are formidable. Sectarian divide Sunni versus Shia remain deep. Iran and Saudi Arabia are regional rivals. Political systems vary widely, from monarchies to democracies to military regimes. Foreign policy goals often conflict. Turkey has its own ambitions and alliances. Building consensus among these nations would be extremely difficult. Moreover, past attempts at Islamic military coalitions have faltered. The Islamic Military Counterterrorism Coalition, launched in 2015, lacked cohesion and clarity. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation has struggled to move beyond rhetoric. So what makes this pact different? First, it's bilateral and binding. Second, it's backed by military leadership. Pakistan's army chief, Asim Munir, is present at the signing. Third, it's rooted in shared strategic interests, protecting holy sites, countering regional threats, and asserting autonomy. Fourth, it's happening at a time when Western credibility is collapsing. The U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, its inconsistent support for allies, and its shifting priorities have left a vacuum. Saudi Arabia and Pakistan are stepping into that void. Some analysts argue this pact could trigger new alignments. Israel and India may deepen cooperation in response. China could quietly benefit, strengthening ties with both Riyadh and Islamabad. Russia may seek to exploit divisions. The U.S. faces a credibility crisis. Its role as Gulf protector is under scrutiny. Others caution against overhyping the pact. The Belfer Center notes that Pakistan has signed similar agreements before, none of which led to automatic military intervention. Defense pacts often come with political caveats. During wars with India in 1965 and 1971, Pakistan's Western allies did not intervene. So where does this leave us? The Saudi-Pakistan Pact is a bold step. It formalizes a long-standing alliance. It reflects a desire for regional autonomy. It responds to real security threats. But it is not yet an Islamic NATO. It's a foundation, perhaps the first brick in a larger structure. Whether it evolves depends on what happens next. Will other nations join? Will they commit to shared defense?